Hello everyone, this is another video from Easy Electric series, and today we are going to start the new series for variable frequency drive or VFD. So if you actually just Google the VFD and see what exactly VFD means, so you could see actually a lot of the definitions. So here I have one of them. So the VFD technically is a electronic motor control device. We technically adjust the AC motor speed and torque by adjusting the frequency and voltage of the power that the motor receive. So this is what at least one of simple search give it to you. So technically we are talking about the device like this. Even here you see the different models of the VFD. They comes from the different shape and different models from the different brands. So what it's do, technically you connect your power line. It could be just one phase or three phase. For these series we talk about the three phase. So you connect the three phase power to one side of that, the other side you connect that to your AC motors. Technically it is technically a programmable drive. You could, with the different parameters, you could actually technically say what exactly you want to do with the motor, which speed you want to run it, and which torque do you need for a specific application that you have. So which motor and which driver we are going to use for this series. So here I give you a screenshot of the motor that I'm going to use. So if you check any motors, usually there is a plate on the side of them, so which is give you enough information about the motor. What I have and what I'm using for this series is this three-phase motor. You could actually run that as a star delta, and it's 0.5 horsepower, 50 hertz frequency. The voltage is 220 to 380. So the other important factor is the current. It could 3 and 1.7. Usually 3 is for a delta, which need more starting current, and 1.7 for actually the star. So whenever you choose the drive, so you base off of what you have in your motor plate, you should actually find the right driver for or VFD for your motor. So what we use in this series is this driver that you see, 222A B2P3J104. It is Allen Bradley. So this is actually, if you take a look to the side of the driver, you could actually see these data. So as you see, it actually gives the all information, the rating of the motor rating, which is 0 to 0.5 horsepower. So the input three phase 200 to 240. So the AC voltage range and the amp, also the output ramps that you have. So that means these two plates, which is a plate of the motor, you should check it, and based off that you choose the right driver for your motor that you want to control the speed and torque. So for this series we are actually using these two specific motor and specific driver to have in this series. So if you take a look, this is usually the catalog number. So the best source for your driver, how you could use that, is actually the data sheet of the driver. So okay, so the first thing is you should actually choose the right driver for a motor that you have. So important thing is you actually should read the plate of your motor. We give you useful information. For my case, the horsepower is 0.5, frequency 50, the voltage 220 for a delta, 380 for a star, and the current is 3 for a delta, 1.5 amp for a star. So same thing, if you take a look to the right side of your VFD, also you find the useful information there, which that means you should actually choose the right driver for your motor. So you couldn't actually run your motor with any drive, right? They should actually somehow compatible with each other. So take a look to what we have here, the wiring. So the other thing is here, you need a protection. So if you take a look to the data sheet, you could actually find the right protection for your drive, which is this one that we actually have here. So take a look to the wiring. You have 3-phase coming here. So this is your drive protection. So the wire actually comes here to the port L1, L2, L3 on your driver, and the motor should be on the delta, which is here to see the wiring. So I actually put on the delta, and then actually connect to the port T1, T2, and 3 on my driver. So the ground of the driver, you see, connect to the ground of the motor, and all connected to the ground input of your utility. So if you take a look to the data sheet of these catalog number that we have, so I already actually have it. So as you could see here, this is actually PowerFlex 4. So with that catalog number that we saw in the side of the driver. So there is general precautions that you need to review on this. So the first one is the driver contains the high voltage capacitor. So that means even if you unplug your driver, you could actually get electric shock. So what he recommend here for this model, it says you should at least wait 3 minutes for capacitor to discharge. So that means unplug, don't touch in the first 3 minutes. So after 3 minutes that discharge, and you could actually touch it. So the second actually precautions we need to know before we use that is if you use the parameter A094 or 92, which is start at power up. So that means whenever you power up, the motor start to actually immediately start to work. So you should actually be careful. It could be actually injure you. So the next is the only qualified personnel could use this. So if you are not qualified to use with 3-phase, please don't do that. That's actually is very dangerous. You should be qualified or licensed person to actually do what we have in this series. So the EST electrostatic discharge could be damage your driver. So there is some techniques that we will talk in this series that how you could actually avoid that. So the next is if you actually incorrectly install or wiring your driver, for sure you could actually damage your driver, and also you could reduce the product life of the driver that you have. So the next thing is before we go to this in this section, I want to actually mention two few things that you need to think before you buy your driver. So number one is the driver size. So you should know what actually have your what is your motor. You should actually write the right driver size for the motor that you have. So the supply voltage is the other factor. You should read the post plate of the driver and also the motor, and make sure they are compatible from supply voltage that you are using. And the next is protection. We are going to talk about the protection in few minutes. And the temperature. So here in the slide you see this is the temperature related things you should consider. It says actually you should minimum mounting clearance. You couldn't somehow attach or put side to side. You should actually have some clearance for here. If that's the case for these series, we just use one. It's not our case, but if you use more than one, you should actually take a look and make sure the mounting clearance is fine. So yeah, the few other things that you should consider before you actually use that is the wire that you connect your driver to the motor should be shielded, and that shield should be grounded. So that actually is the important actually thing. As you see, it says the move to ground jumper must be removed if the driver is installed as an ungrounded or resistive ground. Okay, so in some cases, in some systems, so you have ungrounded system. So if that's you have ungrounded system, so you should actually move the ground jumper wire which is in the side of the driver. So I will actually show you that in a few seconds. Where is it? So please move the ground jumper if the driver is installed on ungrounded or resistive grounded distribution system. For our case, we have a ground, it's not case. But if you are on the system with ungrounded, make sure you remove that jumper wire. So the next is, as I said, the next factor that you should, we mentioned few factors: the driver size, the supply voltage that you use, and the protection. After you have your driver, you should actually have a protection for your driver. So usually use the fuses or circuit breaker. So again, here in the data sheet for this specific model, it says which type of the protection we need. This is our case 222AB2P3N104 is a driver that I use. And if you take a look to that, it actually gives you a right protection device that you could see. These number that you see. So if you actually search easily, you could find the circuit breaker. This is exactly the same thing. This is in the Amazon. So this is actually a motor protection, and also is a standard circuit breaker for this driver. And also it has a switch to disconnect the three-phase that you are getting. So we need this for this series, and we run these motor and these driver. So let's go to the next. Yeah, the other thing is the jumper wire. So the important thing is the driver is shipped with the jumper installed between the I/O pins terminal 0, 1 and 11. Remove this jumper wire when using the I/O terminals as I/O terminal 1 as a stop or enable input. So this is actually this one with the jumper, with the yellow jumper wire. It's connected to 11. So that one thing for starting, we actually keep that for now. So, and also the switch, so you could use this in the sink and source. For starting, again, make sure this is actually source, this switch should be on the bottom side. I forget to show that on the video, but here it's exactly, this is your terminals, I/O terminals, and in the left side of them there is a dip switch. You just make sure it is on the down, which is actually is the source. So I recommend to read all of them. So I'm here review very fast before applying the power to the drive. You should do how you have these checklists. Confirm that all inputs are connected. Verify that the AC line power at the disconnected device is within the rated value of the driver. That's important. So if you use the terminals, the IoT digital control terminals, make sure you just use 24 volt. So again, for starting, we don't have any control IOs. So number 4 is verify the sink source step dip switch is set match your control wiring. So this is what I mentioned, right? For beginning, we just keep that as a source. So if it's needed to do that later on, I actually mention in the videos. But for starting, make sure the jumper is here and also this is on the source. So what is the next one we should check is verify that the stop input is present or drive will not start. Yeah, this is actually the other thing that you should consider. Yeah, as I said, for the first one, we technically use the switch or button switch that we have on the driver, and we are not going to have external things to control that. So make sure the old is right. So if you take a look to the integral keypad that you have, you see actually this, we could explain that very fast. So there is actually three different type of the, maybe you could say four different type of the instruction or parameter that you could see here on the LCD. So here you could choose that to the D, P, and A. So the D is a display group. It's just for view only, consists of the commonly viewed drive operating condition. So P is very basic program parameters, and A is the advanced program parameters, which is during these series we are going to learn about each of them. So, and the last one, you couldn't choose that. Usually if you get the error, you see actually these F here, it means you have one fault message. Again, there is a table here, you could check the numbers and make sure what exactly it means. So again, if you back to the table, you see all of them, you see the all parameter display group parameters. You could give it the D0 to T24, the all explanation there. So the P has its own table, which is tell you what they are doing. We are going to review most of them in this series. And the A has its own table, which is you could take a look and use them based off the needs that you have. So back here we have these knob. You change the frequency with this. This is for selecting these P, and these up and down is for adjusting these number and also choosing these parameters. So that means these four use for that. This one for starting to run the driver. This one is for reverse forward the motor, and this one technically stop everything that we have. So let's run the driver and see how it works. Just generally explain what these button that you have. So I turn on my power. So as you see here, I could actually, there is few buttons. This is for stop, this is change the direction forward, backward, this is run the motor. So if I somehow clean everything, as you see here right now, the frequency hertz is 0, and it is on the reverse. So with this, you run the motor, so motor start to run. So if you want to increase the frequency that turn faster, you could do that. So I increase that to the 24. Now you see it's turning faster. If you want to reverse it, this is a button. Sorry, not this one. This is a button for forward and reverse. I push it, but it goes to the frequency 0. Stop it, then actually change the direction. So now back to the 0, the direction change, and now increase to what I adjust before, which was actually 39. So see, it's also changed. There is LED for forward and reverse that you have. So if you wanna stop it, so you could actually push this, which you could actually stop the motor. So if you want to choose the instruction, so you have actually here the cell. You could see it comes D. With this, you could go to the DPA, and for each of them with this, if you actually push one more time, you could change these number that you see for each of them, which we are going to explain that later on. So for drive, you see there is some part which is here is more hot wires goes there, and there is a 24-volt ports here, so you could actually more control goes there. We will learn about them later on in this course. So two things that you need. This is actually the jumper wire that we see on the data sheet that you see connect 1 to 11. This is this one that we already connected. And also for ungrounded system, you should actually take this off that you see on the side of your driver. That's the other things you need to consider.